Hello, everybody. My name is Henry, and I'm one of the panelists here. I'm going to talk about just overall my life growing up as an autistic individual, just challenges with social friendship, relationship, and independent living skills and anxiety growing up, and how that impacts my life as an adult individual, a parent, husband, and I've also been BCBA as a behavioral consultant today. So, next. Yes, I said, I'm originally from Hong Kong. I came here when I was 7. I grew up mostly in Richmond. I'm an autistic adult individual. As I said, I'm also a parent of an autistic child. He just turned 4. And I'm also a BCB as a behavioral consultant, working mostly in Richmond. There's some common themes that for me, that it reminds me of revolving around ASD while growing up. At least for me, I'm not sure if it's like that for other autistic individuals, because every autistic individual is so different and unique. For me, like when it comes to ASD, for me, these things come onto my mind, right? For example, context blindness, mind blindness, late bloomer, etc. And this meme here really resonated with me. Autism spectrum disorder, obviously, we don't use Asperger's anymore. We just updated the DSM manual, where life is like playing a video game and you decided to skip the tutorial. I don't know if that resonates with you guys, but that basically described my life. So, next. So this kind of a diagram, at least for me, maybe for others on the spectrum, do how we learn things. You'll notice that when we learn logic, right? Maybe 1 leads to 2, 3 leads to 4, and things like that, right? But a lot of us struggle with learning contextual skills, right? Different skills, different things can happen in different contexts, right? So I highlighted that in blue arrows, right? Maybe in certain situations, 1 might lead to 4 or 3 might lead to 2, right? And I find that a lot of these things, both as a behavioral consultant and myself as an autistic adult, these are the things that a lot of us may have to learn manually. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. So this is my early life when I was still in Hong Kong. If you don't mind just playing a little bit on the right video, besides, don't know if we have enough time, but. So you noticed this was when I was just before I turned 3, I think. Just playing, by myself. Just rolling blocks repeatedly. Yeah, they're just like yeah, they're playing play fighting. So, and that was me. If we can just move on to the next slide, that'll be fine. Then play this. Yeah. So some other signs of ASD, at the age of 3, I was pretty much done speaking until around almost close to the age of 3, according to my mom. At that time, my speech was mostly echolytic, and I lined up 2 items in a specific order with 3 quick cries, preference for solitary play as you've seen in the video. I had little to no eye contact. I still remember that. I think it's because when I try to look directly at someone's eyes, it feels intimidating. I don't know if that's the same for a lot of you guys. I also had a lot of self-stimulatory behaviors and rigidities. And unfortunately, I don't have the time to talk about it today, but I did them overall because it felt good, it's my interest. My childhood struggles. I've been a victim of bullying and teasing on a near daily basis, especially when I was in grade 3. Got into fights, sent into principal's office. I was actually suspended from school when I was in grade 3 for 1 afternoon. And these experiences definitely has a profound effect on my self-confidence, self-worth, anxiety. And these effects sometimes still linger from time to time, even today, subconsciously. During some times, I also had feelings of revenge against bullies who bullied against me. Even at this time, I struggled with eye contact, right? As I said, I felt overwhelmed when it comes to those situations. I always feel like I interrupt when others are talking. I wanted to participate to talk, but just struggled with reading nonverbal cues, right? Signaling my turn to talk. difficulties managing anger, frustration, and impulsiveness, right? And just being frustrated and trying to, make friends with other people, but just fail every single time. And be just overburdened with too much social stimulus around me. So at this time, I also had obsessions with certain topics, reading drawing road maps, combat planes, and military history by grade 4.
Yeah.
So at the end, I'm very fortunate because my mom was a registered nurse. So she noticed these signs when I was 3 in Hong Kong. And there's literally no awareness of ASD in Hong Kong at that time, back in the late 80s. So because of these struggles, my vice principal recommended me to go for a diagnosis at Sunny Hill. And I got diagnosed with, they say, Asperger's syndrome, which is part of ASD today. These struggles didn't end there when I was a kid. Teenage years, right? First brush with sexuality. Didn't take too long until I hear terms that you typically hear in porn websites, right? Like, do you masturbate, etc. Also had a small group of teens telling me to make a fist with my left hand, place my fist on the lower part of my tummy, and shake my fist up and down. I didn't know what it meant. I was really gullible, and then they started laughing at me. Later on, I start to see more people being paired up in relationships. And since high school, I wanted to have a girlfriend in high school, but I had challenges with reading nonverbal cues, right? And didn't know whether the girl was interested in me. I didn't know when it would be the best time to show those signs that I'm interested in her. As a result, I was either rejected by the girls I liked or just didn't have the confidence or the guts to proclaim my feelings, right? And there's this thing called getting friend zoned, and I'm always in a situation. You're not such a nice guy. You're a great friend to me, right? That type of thing. So my multiple failed attempts to get to these relationships has led to a lot of anxiety and depression, partly due to my traumas of being bullied and prolonged social isolation, always long for love, warmth, and companionship, things like that. And that's actually me on the upper right hand side many years ago. I've always been dealt the third wheel or the fifth wheel on a light bulb. And as a result of not being able to successfully find a girlfriend, where can I go to satisfy my innate sexual urges? When I was an undergrad at UBC, I watched porn online almost every night for about an hour before I went to sleep. Sometimes I feel ashamed for watching porn. My parents never knew about it, but I just couldn't control myself. And I think, a lot of this is my self-confidence, self-worth was in shattered state due to being single, getting poor grades at UBC. I had really good grades in high school, 94% average. I went to an IB program at Richmond High. But by the end of my first year of UBC, dropped to 69%, almost got kicked out of UBC. And all these traumas had just came back to haunting me, right? Self-confidence and things like that has been shattered.
Yeah.
Yep. My main struggles, adjusting to rigorous academics, balance between social life and study, very difficult. I thought that my future was over. At one point in grad school, I almost pretty much committed suicide. It was really difficult. So, yeah. Didn't have my first job until I was 20. Didn't have my first stable full-time job until I was 33. Again, a lot of this is trauma due to my past experiences, right? As an autistic adult, I'd never really had that type of support, especially in adulthood. One of my counselors recently noted that problem solving has been hampered by ruminative processes of resolve anxiety and probably depression and rigidity associated with autism that prevents goal-oriented problem solving. And one thing that I've noticed is that CBT never works for autistic individuals. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to talk about it today. That's for another time.
Okay. Good.
Now, how my past impacted and shaped my life as a parent of an autistic child, coming from me as an autistic adult, I've always been concerned by whether my son might be on the spectrum as well. At the same time, I'm also BCBA. Because of my background, I kept a very close look at his milestones and whether there were any signs pointing to ASD. From the very beginning, my son and I have a very close relationship. Quite often, he prefers me over my wife. She's neurotypical. Certain unusual sounds, words, or short sentences that animals my son finds funny, I might find amusing as well. Then I would also repeat those similar sounds, words or short phrases, just to get each other to laugh. And I always carried him to the big mirror in the living room from very early on as an infant. just to imitate his sounds, movements, and smiles, right? Just to get him to be more aware as a distinct individual. So I think the idea is that he and I are both autistic, and we just sometimes don't happen to play in the same autistic style. So I think that's why, we have a close bond. I don't know if that's the reason why, but I'm guessing it might be. But also, intergenerational influences from my parents also impacts my parenting styles. My dad, coming from a very traditional Asian parent, he's very strict with a rather authoritarian parenting style. So that had an impact on my parenting as well, which I unfortunately don't have the time to talk about today. In terms of my life as a husband, my wife is neurotypical, just struggling with my blindness and understanding, applying, appropriate social norms, right? And one thing that was really difficult was her expectations for me to be the head of a household as a husband, right? But just because my struggles with dealing with all these skills associated with ASD, right? I subconsciously relied a lot on my parents for advice. But, the social norm, you're supposed to leave your parents and form your own family independent. So that was a really big struggle for me. And making my relationship skills, I had to learn them very slowly, manually, one by one, when a lot of these things neurotypicals take for granted. Certain gifts as a behavioral consultant, certain gifts advantages, right? Maybe, a lot of times I'm able to pull in my experience as a parent, as well as my background knowledge in ABA to better consult and advise with other families I work with. And also just the ability to provide support to families in areas where it might be more difficult for other BCBAs, right? Maybe to just might not be as familiar in the process of their own kids' behavioral intervention from a parental point of view. For example, setting up the AFU portal, community resources, so forth. But also, there comes a downside, right? Like, she does have higher standards for me as a parent. I'm also since I'm a BCBA. And the reason oftentimes I'm really tired as a parent is she would say, you are a behavioral consultant. You should be doing this and this and this and that. And it hurts me sometimes, right? But I guess it's a balance, right? Sometimes, it's hard to be a parent as well as a BCBA at the same time. Struggles with past traumas and impacts on my life as an autistic adult, self-confidence, right? Difficulties with making sound decisions, especially ones that are life-changing, right? Just a lot of times with all of these traumas that went through, as Sam has talked about earlier today, right? It's really hard to make those decisions, and I get overwhelmed and I shut down, right? And one strategy to relieve the source of stress is to increase the need for place alone, the safety place that Sam has talked about earlier today, right? But then sometimes other people or my wife would tell me, you shouldn't be going on in the internet. You should stop looking at the phone and be more attentive to our kid, right? So this can be a very tricky place to maneuver. Anxiety, and I've been described by my past counselors as having generalized anxiety, which I'm not surprised, right? And I get tired really easily, right? And I need to take naps all the time, and can create conflicts in my relationship, in my marriage. But I'm very thankful she does know I'm on the spectrum. She is forgiving of all these things that I go through, so I'm very, very fortunate. But obviously, no marriage is perfect, right? So yeah. Yeah, so fear of failure, right? When it comes to major tasks, it takes longer time for me to get started, right? And I think these are the things that makes me struggle to find a full-time job because of all these things, anxiety. So I think that.
Hello, everybody, and I think it's my turn. My name is Javier. Thank you, Henry, for such a fantastic presentation, and thank you to all the previous speakers. I think they have said a few minutes of my speech, because I can see my relation in all of those presentations. As I was introduced, originally from Colombia, born and raised in Bogota, about 21 years ago, I came to Canada to study a master's at UBC. It's my second master's. I have another master's and a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from back home. My whole life, going with having life as it comes, it came to a moment of revelation. I don't want to describe a Kodak moment, but 8 years ago, I got a diagnosis of several neurodivergent conditions. Autism spectrum attention deficit, and obsessive compulsion. You can name them prep. You can name it whatever you want, but they really describe what I am pretty much and explain behaviors and rate. You were not the only one doing those things when you were three. You see? Um, it came at a cost. I was struggling. I don't know, three kids, husband. My wife is also Colombian. It doesn't guarantee that you will be on the same page all the time. And having a demanding work with them. My family doctor sent me to a psychiatrist. And this lady, in the first appointment, gave me those diagnoses. I was sent to a neuropsychological assessment. Took us 2 days working with a psychologist and STEAM, and finally a report that pretty much confirmed what the psychiatrist had already said. And I feel lucky because at the end of the day, helps me to understand better who I am, where I am, where to go, particularly in a neurotypical society. And I want to stick to universal design principles to not make to avoid making people in the spectrum part of a ghetto for a segregated class. What works for us works for everybody. It's universal design. Since my diagnosis, I started to take better care of myself. Don't want to sound cliche, but things like exercising. I go to the gym morning, noon, evening if I can. My wife says, "Are you addicted to the gym?" Rather prefer to be addicted to the gym than other things. It works for me. It's a gluten-free diet. Again, it's a bit more expensive. I'm not allergic, but it feels better for me. I was the kind of guy that would be sleeping literally at my desk after lunch, after having a bowl with pasta. That doesn't happen anymore. So those are the little epiphany moments that I attribute to having the diagnosis and working on it. I meditate. I don't want to come here as the new Dalai Lama. It's a 10-minute meditation using Headspace on Netflix. I'm also a spiritual person. And again, I know Jesus, do that same here, but I pray while I drive my car around. Don't put full attention to it, but it works. And it counts as meditation as far as I understand. Again, finding your thing, no matter if you are neurotypical, neurodivergent, is a trial and error, and you need to start somewhere or somehow. In my case, my diagnosis was the trigger. And because I'm passionate about the job, this, everything job related, this is where I want to focus in the last few minutes of my presentation. Times are changing. We have made progress. It still will take us more than 100 years to close the gap of a stigma for people with disabilities. My answer to that is to empower everybody, each of us, again, neurotypical, neurodivergent. And speaking about a job, don't want to get into politics, but the first step for me is the best social program is for each person to have a job. And we need to start here and now. Each of us who are facilitating the advancement of neurodivergent people into adulthood is a process that we need to start. The first step sounds obvious, and I think that's something that we have done one way or the other, particularly those who are here in the room, as far as I can see, finding the vocation that we are called out. It's nice to have a job, better if it's an occupation, fantastic if you find your vocation. And how books and other tools to do this. There is a book out there, Which Color is Your Parachute? Really helps you to slice and dice, even at the geography, function, industry level, where to find a job, where to find a fulfilling career. And then you need to start to work on that field, either as an entrepreneur, looking for a job, working with somebody else. Okay? There are ways to facilitate this. And me, myself, particularly after my diagnosis, I know I need to knock on more doors. Don't want to go again with the second cliche, double the effort for half the results. But maybe it's the life, but at least I need to live. And I still am grateful for that. Job hunting can be done in tasks. Look for mentors. Look for those advocates out there. And of course, look for headhunters. They are paid to do that. In my case, I was lucky. I found even not one, but two firms in Vancouver that focus on neurodivergent people, mainly in IT, and they really, really, really helped me out. Focus PS and Busy Works. And there are also national and international firms. Specialister has a branch in Canada, mainly in Toronto, but still they do businesses here in Vancouver. And sorry, in this case, I'm getting too narrow into IT, which is the field of my expertise, but commonalities, or if not that perfect job hunting or close to perfect job hunting firm, there are companies that can help because they focus on things that are aligned, particularly with the skills that quite a few neurodivergent people will have. Just to mention one, we have NAV Canada. They are in charge of all the control towers of the airports in Canada. And they do a call for neurodivergent people to join them. So again, looking for that particular sweet spot is where we as neurodivergent people can find success. But guess what? Neurotypical people will also find success by doing the same. And what I got that I consider myself blessed doing what I like to do today. It's not the perfect environment, not the perfect team, not the perfect supervisor, but nothing is perfect. How to keep that? My three strategies that I have tried to master in the last few years started with time management. I was the kind of person that would love to do research. Again, no, but not everybody who goes hours and hours on the internet looking for their passion is autistic. Quite a few autistic people who do that. I was one of those. Now I apply a time management technique, the Pomodoro technique. 25 minutes to do a task, 5 minutes to take a break. That's it. But you can fit in 25 minutes. That's all that you have, my friend. Not 2 hours, not 4 hours, not the whole day. The second one is communication. I'm still working on that. I need to make an effort for an English as a very first language, as far as I can see, audience, to speak slowly and make the intonation and pronunciation. I have an disconnect between my ear and my tongue. It's the only explanation I can give. I have been through more than one assessment for ear, and I'm perfectly okay from a physiological perspective, but I need to really work on that. And the third one is creating the rapport. Maybe that one I masterized, maybe because my attention deficit and sort of outgoingness, but going for that cup of coffee, sometimes even virtually inviting that coffee over the internet, but creating the rapport. But I cannot do that if I don't master things as essential like time management and communication skills. And those are the kind of challenges that I face today, but they are the ones that I need to overcome in order to keep successful, not only as a worker, but also as a person. Again, as a writer, neurodiverse, neurotypical. And that's the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you for your time.
My name is Robbie Brown. My spirit name is Turbleman. And I think I'm going to focus on the intergenerational trauma and how it affected me as a child. I just got a diagnosis of autism like 6 years ago, and I'm still trying to get the full diagnosis. I have a child who has autism. And I was really worried that all of the stuff that I went through as a child was going to go to him, but didn't. And I grew up with parents who were addicts and alcoholics first 10 years, and they always thought it was being difficult. So I got in trouble a lot. So I learned how to shut down. I also experienced a lot of sexual abuse from family members and school systems. So if you are a professional in the school and you see a child that's quiet, see a I did everything I could to get other teachers to help me with my one teacher that was sexually abusing me, because I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to share that something bad is happening to me. That's also from intergenerational trauma because, you've got to keep quiet about certain things. And nobody listened to me before. So, and it still feels like that now. And I'm 51 years old. And I have to admit that I've experienced sexual assault more than 30 times in my life. Because as a neurodivergent, thought that was normal because that was taken from me. And so I just would how do I say, succumb to it. Just, it just let things happen so I could get through it and go home and just cry about it there or whatever. And then I learned how to fight. And so I'm a ship fighter. And a lot of other bad things happened in my transition into youth. Like my aunt went missing. I was kidnapped for a weekend at the age of 15. When I tried to report it to the RCMP, they asked me what I did wrong. Why did I put myself there? And all the time I'm thinking in my head, can't anybody hear me? Why can't anybody just believe me for once? So now I'm quite guarded, very guarded. As my partner, I'm reactive. Since I'm very reactive, if I see unjust stuff happening, I have a meltdown that way, and my meltdown is like a raised voice. Hence, I can't hold a job for more than 2 years because I get angry, and none of my management team will believe that I have a disability because they're like, "Well, you don't look like it." Well, of course, I don't look like it, but I am it because I stare blankly because I don't understand at the same time. And I've learned to mask that. I'm just looking at things, but really I'm shutting down slowly inside. And so I decided that at 17 to drop out of school because nobody was listening to me. And I just said, well, middle fingers, and I'm going. And I went out into the big world by myself, and that was scary. And I became an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I was involved in gangs. That was very scary for me. Seen a lot of awful things, experienced a lot of awful things. My mom kind of could see what was going on, and my first daughter, the father went to prison, so I was on the news, and people were throwing eggs at me, and I didn't know how to tell people I didn't do what he did. Why are you attacking me and my baby? And everyone said I was crazy because I had the meltdowns, and my meltdowns are yelling and swearing and coming at you because you came at me and my family like that so much because police get called on you. And I don't want the police because that's where all my trauma is because the police never helped me or believed me. And also the police did things to me too. So it's been a very hard time to get my children to trust in the police when I don't trust it. But that was important in my transition and I became, but as I was saying, 17, my mom was like, get a job or you're moving back home. And I was like, where's home again? And I was in Alberta. I was like, oh, wait, 18, you can drink there, right? So that was my coping. And I got sent over there. And then I had to get a job. So I'm like, oh, where's a job? And still those kind of things that you can sit down with your youth and go over what's appropriate. If somebody would have told me your boss cannot put his hands on your bottom or on your body, and he cannot ask you on dates, nor can your directors, nor peers. And it's okay to say I'm uncomfortable with it, even if you're not intending to make me feel that way. Doesn't matter. I feel that way. I'm 50. I believe when I say that now, but I do shut down when I say it because I get scared that nobody's going to listen. I also say I have a lot of patience because I became a mute. I stopped talking. I do a lot of those things. I would do a lot of the rocking because I was so overwhelmed with the trauma that I experienced. So my mom saw all this stuff going on. She decided to put me in school. I was not freaking school again. And it was a native education college. And that was the first first time I got to experience like such a experience. It just made me feel like I was at home and I was building confidence again. And then my life became better. And then I had to cut my child. And all that, it was paparazzi, the news people. And she was diagnosed with cancer. But then I was like 21 with the child with cancer. I have autism, but nobody knows that I have autism. And I'm experiencing all this intergenerational trauma. I was scared. I was so scared. I isolated myself. And I remember I lived across the reserve over here. I think he's Squamish people and I love living over here. But I was scared because I had all these stereotypes in my head. And when they asked me where I was from, I'd say, I'm from Parson, Alberta. And then they were like, go away, get out of Alberta. And then I was like, I really thought I had to go away and get out of the town. Like they were joking. And they would catch the joke because I couldn't read fingers because they had a straight face. So, yeah, that's hard for me. And it's that sarcasm. Oh, I understand. I can get sarcasm now. Like, I understand that. But I have to say, like, the Squamish people really helped me feel comfortable because it was like, I think I lived here since I was 19. And that's where I started feeling comfortable with myself and being okay. Like, the spiritual part of autism is what I excel at because I see things, I feel things. People call me like the medium, stuff like that. But I feel like it's my autism that has opened a different part of my brain. And I used to hate it. I hide it from everybody. I'm not like, hey, I'm here. This is what I can do. I'm also really great with children because I've been working in this field with children, helping them with their autism for 30 years. And it's so much easier to help other people than to help yourself. I can't help myself. I don't think I'm worth it. I put myself last. And I've been in therapy, so I know better. And my mom's a drug and alcohol treatser, and I grew up with all her AA friends and all that stuff. And it's just very hard to be self-caring, just to accept myself. I'm okay to say I'm weird, and I love the word. But yeah, just if you see someone struggling, if they just shut down, if somebody would just said, everything okay? I probably was, the teacher's doing this whole if somebody would just, that minute, those kids that are sitting in the corner on the playground, one's spitting, that was me, I would put sand in my hair, I would pull it out to cope with everything. Yeah, like talking is one to this autistic don't know how to initiate. Once I'm going, I can't stop you. You have to shut me down and say, enough from me. It's why, yeah, but this. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to me.